Hi, everybody. My name is Taji. You can call me T, okay? That way you don't forget. T. And I'm from Yoga Bees Are Beautiful. I'm a former professional dancer, and now my whole life is being a grandma and health, wellness, yoga, traveling. And what we're going to talk about today is the subject of resilience. And this is something I deal with everybody on the yoga mat. Resilience is really important. And I know everybody in here is a resilient person. I can tell. One, we're all of age. And two, you wouldn't be where you are. You wouldn't be here without it. So resilience is really important, but it's something we have to up our game in constantly. The message I'm going to give today is just because you fall, you're not out of the race. Just because you fall, you're not out of the race. Has anyone taken a spill? Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially? We won't go there. Sorry, I won't say that. Okay. All right. Sensitive subject. But I had a student Friday night. She was getting ready to run her 5th marathon yesterday. She took a terrible spill on the sidewalk outside. She smashed her chin, her wrist, and her knee blew up. She couldn't put any weight on it. So she was in bed. I heard about it. The next day, Saturday, I was in a meeting with a lot of people, and I could overhear her mother telling everybody about the accident. And all the responses, everyone, oh, she's out. She's out. She's out. Too bad. She worked so hard. Well, there's always next time. Well, she's getting better. It's very important. She doesn't put weight on it. She doesn't do it. And I'm looking at that. It felt so familiar, that reaction, to, all your cheerleaders all of a sudden like, okay, sorry. And I'm thinking, and I thought just what I told you, just because you fall doesn't mean you're out of the race. And I said when after that meeting was over, a couple hours, I saw everyone on the street. They were still talking about, I said, she's going to run. And they all looked at me like that was kind of not a really safe thing to say. But I felt very safe saying it because I see this all the time since 1984, pretty much when I started dancing professionally, daily. It happens everywhere. My husband's financial life and everyone's personal life, in the kids' life, in my elderly people who are ill life. Oh, that's it, gone. No, he's back on the yoga mat 5 months later. The resilience. Yes, she ran the marathon, she finished, and that's it. So there's resilience to our immediate situation: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. There's subdivisions of all those, but those are the important ones. Those are the parts of your health you got to work on every day. You've got to work on those every day. It's really, really important because something's going to come up. So you have your immediate situation, like you just fell down, you hurt your knee. It's physical, right? Okay, it's the body thing. Now you got the emotional thing, the tears, crying. Then there's the mental thing, and it's not just your mental. Now you got to deal with what other people are thinking. This affects your resilience, what your friends are thinking, what your parents are thinking, what your doctors are saying, what the world is saying. And then another voice that's stronger than that is your own resilience. What are you saying? Are you judging? Are you critiquing? Are you comparing yourself with somebody? What happened with the resilience? All these things play into resilience. So when you're trying to get better with resilience, you have to deal with how you handle what other people are saying about you, responding to what you're presenting to them, responding where they're you're coming from with them, and you got to deal with how you feel about yourself. She had to have a hard conversation with herself, like, why should I run? Why should I do this? Do I have to do this? Where's that coming from? And this is one of the reasons I think we have the obstacles in the first place, because to get to the good stuff in ourselves, we need that. We need to get to the real resilience. So if you just skip the part about asking yourself, you're always going to be working like automatically. You're just going to, oh, I got this, I got this, I got this, I got this. But why do you got it? And what are you getting it for? I got it, I got it. Okay, that's good, that's good. That's going to help you get through the anxiety. That's going to help you calm down. But what do you want to get? Why do you need to do this? Why is the resilience important? Why do you need to summons this now? So how you think, what other people think is part of it. You got to deal with the health, mental, the spiritual, and the physical. Yoga is a great place to do it. Eric?
Well, the funny thing is, if I rewind 23 years when I first got out of college, and Kyle's not here, so I played basketball at Cornell. He played at Harvard. He's probably a lot better than I am and taller than I am, but I have a bigger foot than he does. I was 15. But I say it's a bug out right now because first job out of school was at the NBA league office, which if you look out of the building right here at Olympic Tower, is the 14th floor. I'm on the 14th floor here right now. Was fortunate to work for David Stern, who was a commissioner at the time, and took this boyhood dream of being in sports and got to work at the NBA, helping players understand the business side of the sport. So it was actually called the business of basketball. And I traveled around to the teams, and at the time there was no one and done rule. So it was high school players coming out to the NBA, and they thought, I'm worth a certain number of millions. These billionaires are just giving me a certain number of millions. You have to explain to them there's ticket sales and sponsorship sales and arena revenues and media rights. And so that kind of, when I look at Garrick here and some of the work that he's doing and a lot of the focus on women's sports, it led to an opportunity with Chicago, with the Chicago Sky, became their director of sales and service. Out to Phoenix, another connection with Kyle. I thought I'd bring Kyle both, but he's not in the room right now, to be the director of sales and service with the Suns. Back here to New Jersey with the Devils, VP of sales and service. And then why am I giving a whole sports background when we're here talking about mental health? Because I took over chief revenue officer of the Florida Panthers with the team that just won the Stanley Cup final. I was down there in 2015 when Vinny Viola from Virtue Financial had just purchased the team. I was on top of the world. Okay. How many of you have probably felt at different points in your lives? So I was 33 years old, the youngest chief revenue officer in sports, as if that mattered, right? Like that was something that I wore as a badge of honor. Making more money I'd ever made before in my life. Nice new Lexus rental car. I grew up with parents that had Oldsmobiles and were both teachers. New apartment. And 6 months into my tenure there, my brain and my body absolutely fell apart on me. I could not put sentences together, could not look people in the eyes and have conversations. I got into the office and I fell apart. And I came back to New York because what do we do when we're from the Northeast or we work here in the Northeast? We think that the best doctors are here. So no disrespect to Kyle being at Harvard, myself, Cornell, we think the Ivy League doctors have the best plan and this is how we're going to get better. So I'm going to spare no expense. I'm going to get the best treatment possible. And that led to 2.5 years of absolute misery. I chased what I was told was a chemical imbalance. I was given every label under the sun, from depression, anxiety, PTSD, OCD, ADHD, and was told that every different type of medication fixes that type of chemical imbalance. And when that's the path that you go down, you try 52 different psychotropic drug combinations in 2.5 years. When you go inpatient to Cornell Med here, because you've tried all those medications and you have their first ever suicidal ideation, and that comes out of nowhere. And yes, I talk about suicide in the first person because, excuse my language, it's fucking bullshit that we're not talking about it in the first person, because we have the highest suicide and overdose rates in the history of our country. Highest ever, 50,000 suicides, 100,000 overdoses, and the trends are going like this. We're talking about this topic in the absolute wrong way. We're talking about it as a who has it and who doesn't. Okay, and as Taji's talking about resiliency, the reason I'm giving you that whole background is because I didn't think I had it. As most of these people in the room, I would bet you most of you don't think you have it. When I say it, I mean this diagnosable thing called mental illness. And the reason I say most in the room is because the most common stat is 1 in 5 people have mental illness. So what are we telling the other 4 in 5 people? What terminology would you use to describe what your mental health is? Healthy, fine, normal, and okay. Okay. And so when we're looking at this topic of resiliency, here I was laying in a bed. I then have this suicidal ideation after 2.5 years. I go to what I'm told is a CHOP treatment facility center in the country. The attending psychiatrist is a Harvard trained doctor. She looks at my chart and she says, you tried everything there is. Your last resort is to do ECT, which is electroconvulsive therapy, or what we know from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, shock therapy. And I have my brain, because I don't know anyone to call up. I don't have a friend Taji to ask to say, what do you do in this case when someone offers you shock therapy? I have my brain shocked into seizure 12 times over 5 weeks and left the hospital no better than I had the previous 2.5 years, thinking my life is over unless Merck or Pfizer invents some miracle pill. You'll see where this comes back to resiliency in terms of the learning that I took from it, because where the story turns, I mentioned my parents both being teachers previously. So my parents go to these continuing education courses all the time, and they go to this one course called, you'll probably know the term very well, integrative breathing practices. I have no idea what the term integrative means, so I don't know what to expect of it. Parents come back. We met this Dr. Donna. She treats differently than all these other doctors. Please go see her. And I sit on her couch, and most of us who've been in mental health appointments, it goes in 3 segments. Nice to meet you. What are your symptoms? Based on your symptoms, here's your diagnosis. Based on your diagnosis, here's how we're going to treat you. That's not what this doctor did. She said, Eric, I want to get to know you as a person. What's the story of your life? We've talked a lot about storytelling in all these sessions. And then as Kyle and Levon were talking about what stories are we telling ourselves, she asked me, what is the story of your life as you tell it to yourself? And then she said, there's no rules. You could scream, you could curse, you could yell, you could punch the pillow, you could look at the floor, ready, go. And before I give you that, I just want you to think for a second, if someone asks you that question, what's the story of your life, right? I heard Garrick's story. Garrick and I are friends now. He's telling the story about what he went through, but I might witness Garrick's story from the outside and have a very different take than what he experienced himself. So for me, started at age 4, give some early memories, but essentially what came out of my mouth over the next 50 minutes was my older brother from the time I was 9. He was 4 years older than me, breaks his femur bone, put into a body cast for a year and homeschooled. A month later, gets diagnosed with ALL, which is a children's form of leukemia. So 5 years of chemo and radiation, late 80s, early 90s, not the best prognosis. Miracle, he goes in remission. A month later, he's in a Jeep Wrangler with his friends, open top, no seatbelt, car loses control. He flies out of the back, lands on his head. If anyone's familiar with the Meadowbrook Parkway out here, loses partial vision in his eyes, and ICU for a month. Heals from that, goes to college, pain in his knee, same cancer from childhood's come back. Now that it's come back, they have to give him a stronger dose of the chemo. Fortunately, the chemo drugs are much stronger now, so it does a good job of lowering the white blood cell counts, but his body develops septic shock from the chemo treatments. Septic shock, he falls into a coma. For 3 months, we don't know if he's going to wake or have any brain activity. Miracle, he wakes, full cognitive faculties, but his kidneys fail from being in the septic shock for so long. So he needs to go on dialysis. We all get tested to see who's the closest match. My father donates a kidney to him. That's all successful. I get that job at the NBA. This is where it's coming full circle. 3 of my close friends pass away, 22, 23, 24 years old. Fortunately, I was working for a guy, if anyone knows, Mark Tatum. He's a deputy commissioner at the NBA now. He was like a father figure to me at the time. But why would I give you that story if we're talking about resiliency? We don't have a ton of time to go into that level of detail, because we don't talk in that level of detail when it comes to mental health, and that's why we're losing people. Because what this woman said back to me is, Eric, I only have 10 minutes here. What else happened to you as a child and a young adult that impacted your mental health? I said, Don, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm 35. I got a chemical imbalance at 33. You asked me to tell you about my life. I started at age 4 and I got up to age 24. That was 9 or 10 years ago. During those 9 or 10 years, I was running sales for the Suns, the Devils, and the Panthers. My mental health wasn't impacted. And this is where she gave me the analogy that what I was doing was watching wrestling matches happening in front of me. My brother was wrestling the game of life. My friends were wrestling the game of life. And just like if I had a front row seat for an NBA game and sweat was splattering from the players, often flying off them, or they dove for a loose ball and they land in my lap, the mud from that wrestling match that I was watching was hitting me and caking up on me, caking up on me, caking up on me. That mud, for all of us in this room, is something that's called chronic stress and trauma. And it builds in our nervous system for every single person on the planet. And the problem is now bringing it full circle to resiliency. When it comes to resiliency, We look at it through the lens, especially I thought of, okay, we're in the room with sports. What 3 examples can I give? Resiliency. Okay, Michael Jordan, flu game against the Utah Jazz. NBA Finals. Oh my God, he's got the flu and he scores 38 points. What a resilient guy. Brett Favre gets tackled, his knee falls apart. Linemen pick him up. He still gets up to the line and throws a touchdown. What a resilient guy. Carrie Strug in the Olympics breaks her ankle and she still is able to land a jump and wins a medal for the US. And we're like, resilient. Guess what? And I'm saying this because I care about everyone. I know this is all, we're family offices and there's money involved. I'm saying this because I'm here because I care about you. That's not resiliency and the resiliency that Taji was talking about. That's mental toughness. And I didn't know it because everyone who looked at me, you win Scholar Athlete Awards. You're moving up in your career. You guys are all successful in what you're doing in finance and with family offices. And what we do in that resiliency is we push and we push and we push. And people say, look at how you overcame those obstacles. And what we don't notice is that chronic stress and trauma building silently is happening just like plaque builds in our arteries when we have a heart attack. And that chronic stress and trauma creates a disconnect between our brain and our body. And the exercises like a yoga, like a meditation, that'll name some ones that probably most in this room don't know about. Havening, EMDR, brain spotting, neurofeedback. There are all these modalities that are out there that work out our nervous system, and that there's a gym for a brain, just like there's a gym for the body, but I don't have it. I'm not part of the 1 in 5. Okay, I'll try that meditation stuff, but what does meditation actually do? Where I'll land the plan on this point, and then we'll have a back and forth. And sorry, I get heated about it just because when I see these trends, and I think the stats came out the other day that 10% of high schoolers in the US have attempted suicide. 10% have attempted, 20% having ideations, okay? We are going in the wrong direction. We're staring down a tsunami. And because of the way that things have been positioned to us for so long, because no disrespect to anyone's in pharmaceuticals here, I'm not anti-med. Meds have helped me. I understand where they have their place. 15% of people see an uptick from SSRIs, but we are not teaching people the physiological and the biological changes that are happening in our system over time. And it's happening to every single one of us, not 1 in 5, 5 in 5. It may look like a breakdown like it did with me, but to you, it may look like that you don't enjoy time with your wife or your husband. It may look like you don't have the energy to pick up your kids and play with them. It may look like you don't enjoy watching your team on TV playing sports. That's what it manifests as. But we are blind to it because that's not how it's been packaged and sold to us for so long, because it's much easier to say you have it and now you need something to fix it. So if we're going to talk about resiliency, I wanted to get to the core of what resiliency is. When Taji talks about mind, body, spirit, it's not talking about how do I mentally just overcome obstacles. It's talking about what are the exercises and practices that I can do.
Yeah, and even when you are at the top of the game, this is going to affect you because it can be the person who you're working with, or the person you have a deal with, or someone you're counting on who's going to have their fall. You know, the falls are happening. They're happening right now. They're happening when we walk out of this room. The falls are happening. And I'm sorry, I don't remember her name, the Olympic athlete.
LeBron?
Yeah, she was saying about how to build up the family and build up your support. Everybody's got to learn resilience. We got to encourage resilience in each other, and definitely steer away from the mental toughness. It's a place to start, but it can drive someone further into their problem. Can we take any questions? Anyone questions on resilience?
After we just exploded everything.
Yes, Garrett.
In reference to resilience, can you all speak to, I think, one isolated occurrence in your life that I think set you on the path of understanding how to get to the next level and how to pull yourself back up? Because I know in sports, you have to have a short memory, especially the offensive line playing football. Because if you harbor on what happened to you to play before, it'll snowball into the rest of the plays. So for me, having that short memory, I can go through a ton of things and be right back up. But making that transition from football for me doesn't necessarily equate to what it needs to be in real life, because I'm quick. You can cut me, but I don't bleed long, right? But that might not be the best scenario for it. But for you guys, what's a one isolated incident or situation that
So we learn from how we fall down, right? And so in falling down, timing of being able to tell the story and only having 2 minutes is I showed up to a weekend breathing course that this woman sent me to. I was the only male, only one under 40, and only one born in this country. So it was me and 8 Indian women and 9 yoga mats. And I thought breathing was this foofy thing that people who hug trees do. And when I started learning the science of the vagus nerve and how our vagus nerve is like a rubber band that connects our breath, when our eyes see something and our brain processes it, we change the way we breathe and it sends a message down through that vagus nerve to our vital organs. Now it came back online and I said, I'm going to do that. 30 days, I didn't feel better doing it. But 30 days in, all of a sudden I was like, game on, we're ready to go.
Yeah, everybody's approach to resilience is going to be personalized. That's why we do have to practice daily, and we have to ask ourselves. We got to keep introspecting. We got to keep questioning. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back. Why am I upset? Why is this person upset? And each experience teaches us. We learn a lot just by helping someone else get out. Like I remember when my sister died at 35 of breast cancer. I remember my mom. It was hard getting her. Okay, that didn't work. That didn't work. Okay, just saying, time heals. That didn't work. And the harder the problem, the better the answer you get. That's why some of our most wise people are the people who can't walk, can't see, can't do it, because they've been through the hardest of the hard. So it's very personal. And I think if you just use this word resilience and just make it your own personal work for the next 30 days, you'll see your game improve on all levels. Your relationships, your work's going to get more creative. Your body's going to start to feel better. I mean, we got to eat to be resilient. You can't be eating Wendy's. Is there still Wendy's? I don't know. You can't be, you can't be eating, bad stuff and, doing bad stuff for your body and not taking care of yourself and think you're going to be on top of your resilience game, because the body has a lot to fight. Even, we're living in these cities and stuff. You got to be physical, mental, spiritual, emotional. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Julia, for coming. Thank you, everybody.